my mother-in-law, Patricia, cornered me in the kitchen during Christmas dinner and hissed, "If you don't give me $200,000 from your inheritance, I'll make sure my daughter divorces you." I looked at her, my hands still wet from washing dishes, and replied calmly, "Do what you have to do." She smiled, that venomous, victorious smile she always wore when she thought she'd won. She had no idea that those 7 words would be the beginning of the end for her. She had no idea what was coming. My name is David Chen. I'm 34 years old, and I work as a high school physics teacher in a modest suburban district. I'm not flashy. I drive a 10-year-old Honda Civic. I pack my lunch most days. I grade papers at the kitchen table every night. To anyone looking from the outside, I'm just another underpaid educator trying to make ends meet. And for the last 7 years of my marriage to Emily, that's exactly what Patricia thought I was. A nobody. A charity case. Someone her daughter had foolishly married out of misguided love. Emily and I met in college. She was studying marketing, and I was pursuing my teaching degree. We fell in love over late-night study sessions and terrible cafeteria coffee. She was smart, funny, and kind. She saw me, not my bank account or my future earning potential, just me. We got married 2 years after graduation in a small ceremony that Patricia complained about for months. It wasn't grand enough. It wasn't at the right venue. I wasn't good enough. Patricia Monroe was a real estate agent who'd built a moderately successful career selling mid-tier homes in the suburbs. She wasn't wealthy, but she spent like she was. Designer handbags, luxury cars leased at predatory interest rates, and a house she could barely afford. She lived on credit and ego. From day one, she made it clear that I was beneath her daughter. Every family gathering was an opportunity for her to make some pointed comment about my humble profession, or to ask in front of everyone if I was still struggling financially. Emily, bless her, would defend me at first. But over the years, Patricia's constant drip of poison started to work. Emily began to look at our life differently. Our small but cozy house became cramped. Our budget-conscious vacations became embarrassing. Our simple life became a source of shame, not contentment. And Patricia, always hovering in the background, fed that shame like it was a starving animal. Here's what Patricia didn't know. Here's what I never told Emily because I wanted to build a life based on love, not money. My grandfather, Chen Wei, immigrated to this country with nothing. He worked 3 jobs, saved every penny, and invested brilliantly in real estate in the 1970s and 80s. When he died 6 years ago, he left everything to me. Not to my parents, not to my siblings, to me. Because I was the one who visited him every Sunday. I was the one who listened to his stories. I was the one who cared. My inheritance was substantial. $3.2 million in liquid assets and properties. I never touched a cent of it. I kept teaching. I kept living simply. I invested the money conservatively and let it grow. I told Emily about the inheritance, of course, but I downplayed the amount. I said it was a nice nest egg for our future and left it at that. She never asked for details, and I never offered them. The money sat in accounts that Patricia knew nothing about. Everything changed this past Thanksgiving. Patricia started talking about a business opportunity, a condo development deal that needed investors. She was aggressive, insistent, almost manic about it. She kept saying it would set our family up for life. She needed $200,000. She looked at me pointedly across the turkey and said, "I know your grandfather left you something, David. Now's the time to step up for this family." I politely declined. I said I wanted to keep that money secure for Emily's and my future. Patricia's face went cold. She spent the rest of the dinner making passive-aggressive comments about selfish people and family loyalty. That's when things got worse. Over the next month, Patricia launched a campaign. She called Emily daily, filling her head with poison. She told Emily I was hoarding money that belonged to the family. She said I was controlling and financially abusive. She planted seeds of doubt about our entire marriage. By mid-December, Emily wasn't defending me anymore. She was questioning me. Then came Christmas dinner. Patricia waited until Emily was in the other room entertaining guests. She backed me into the kitchen, her face inches from mine, and delivered her ultimatum. $200,000, or she'd destroy my marriage. She'd already drafted the narrative. David is hiding money, refusing to help family, controlling Emily financially. She had Emily half convinced already. You'll lose her, Patricia said, and you'll deserve it. You're nothing without her. You'll end up old and alone in that pathetic little house, grading papers until you die. I looked at this woman, this parasite who'd spent 7 years trying to diminish me, and I felt something snap into place. The patient teacher was done being patient. Do what you have to do, I said quietly. Then I dried my hands, walked back into the dining room, and finished my Christmas dinner. For 3 days after Christmas, I was in a dark place. Patricia had immediately escalated. She told Emily I'd been hostile and threatening in the kitchen. She cried to her. She said I was changing and showing my true colors. Emily, overwhelmed and confused, asked me to move out temporarily while she figured things out. I packed a bag and went to stay at a modest hotel. Patricia thought she'd won. Emily thought I'd cave and apologize, then hand over the money to save the marriage. They were both wrong. On the 4th day, I made a phone call I hadn't made in almost 8 years. I called my older sister, Linda Chen Morrison. Linda and I had a falling out after our grandfather's funeral. She'd been furious that he'd left everything to me. She'd accused me of manipulation, of poisoning him against the rest of the family. It wasn't true, but her anger had been real. We hadn't spoken since. She'd built her own life, her own success. Linda wasn't just successful. She was a named partner at Morrison & Chen, one of the most prestigious family law firms in the state. She was a legal assassin who specialized in high-net-worth divorces. My hands shook as I dialed her number. It rang 3 times. Then I heard her voice, cautious but not hostile. David? Linda, I said, my voice cracking slightly. I need help. There was a long pause. Then she said, tell me everything. I told her. I told her about Patricia, about the ultimatum, about the poison campaign, about Emily asking me to leave. When I finished, Linda was silent for a moment. Then she said something that changed everything. David, I owe you an apology. I was wrong about grandfather. I was wrong about you, and I'm going to fix this. When is Emily planning to file? She hasn't yet, I said. Patricia is pushing her to do it this week. Good, Linda said, and I could hear the steel in her voice. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Just tell me when and where the first meeting is. There's a mediation scheduled, I said. Patricia insisted on it. She got Emily to hire her friend's nephew, some divorce attorney. January 8th, downtown Family Court Building. Perfect, Linda said. I'll be there. David, do not worry. Big Sister's got this. We hung up. For the first time in days, I felt something other than despair. I felt hope. January 8th arrived. I walked into the family court mediation room alone, carrying a worn briefcase. I was wearing my usual teaching clothes, khakis, a button-down shirt, sensible shoes. I looked exactly like what Patricia thought I was. Defeated. Poor. Powerless. Emily was already there with her attorney, a young guy named Brandon Mitchell who looked fresh out of law school. He had that cocky confidence of someone who thinks they're about to win an easy case. Next to Emily sat Patricia, dressed in an expensive blazer she couldn't afford, wearing a smirk like it was jewelry. Brandon stood as I entered. Mr. Chen, he said, his tone dripping with condescension. I'm glad you could make it. I think we can make this quick and painless if you're reasonable. He slid a document across the table. These are our terms. We're asking for the house. 60% of all marital assets, and $4,000 monthly spousal support for 5 years. Given your financial situation, my client is being very generous. Patricia leaned forward. We know about the inheritance, David. Stop playing games. You're going to lose everything anyway. Just sign and let Emily move on with her life. I looked at Emily. She couldn't meet my eyes. She looked tired, conflicted. But she didn't stop her mother. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could, the door opened. The room went silent. Linda Chen Morrison walked in like she owned the building. She was wearing a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than my car, carrying a leather briefcase that whispered wealth and power. Her heels clicked against the floor with the rhythm of an executioner's march. She moved with the kind of confidence that made people instinctively step aside. The mediator's eyes went wide. Brandon Mitchell went pale. Even Patricia, who had no idea who Linda was, could sense the shift in the room's atmosphere. Linda walked directly to my side of the table and placed her briefcase down with a solid, definitive sound. She looked at the mediator, then at Brandon, and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Linda Chen Morrison, she said, her voice clear and commanding. Morrison and Chen family law. I'll be representing Mr. Chen in these proceedings. Brandon's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Morrison and Chen? I didn't know. Now you do, Linda said, cutting him off. She turned to me and her expression softened just slightly. Sorry I'm late, little brother. The word brother hung in the air like a bomb. Patricia's smug expression crumbled. Emily's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. Brandon looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Linda sat down, opened her briefcase, and pulled out a stack of files that seemed impossibly thick. Now, she said, looking directly at Patricia. Before we begin, let me make one thing crystal clear. She turned her gaze to Brandon. Your client has been operating under several false assumptions. I'm here to correct them. Brandon tried to regain his composure. Ms. Chen Morrison, with all respect, we're prepared to proceed with— You're not prepared for anything, Linda interrupted, her voice like cut glass. But please continue. Read your demands again. I want them on the record. Brandon, rattled, stumbled through the document again. House, assets, spousal support. When he finished, Linda smiled again. That same predatory smile. Interesting, she said. Now let me tell you what's actually going to happen. What followed was the most surgical, methodical demolition I'd ever witnessed. Linda didn't just practice law. She weaponized it. Within the first hour, she'd filed motions for full financial discovery that would require Emily and Patricia to disclose every financial transaction they'd made in the last 3 years. She'd subpoenaed phone records, text messages, and emails between Emily and Patricia from the last 6 months. She demanded depositions not just from Emily, but from Patricia as well, and from every friend Patricia had enlisted in her poison campaign. Brandon tried to object. Linda buried him under precedents and statutes, citing cases from memory with page numbers and dates. The mediator, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, just took notes and occasionally glanced at Brandon with something that looked like pity. Furthermore, Linda said, pulling out another document, we're filing a counter-petition. Mr. Chen will be seeking a full forensic accounting of all marital assets, as well as any funds Mrs. Emily Chen received from third parties during the marriage. She looked directly at Patricia. That includes you, Mrs. Monroe. Patricia's face went white. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the $23,000 you've borrowed from your daughter over the last 18 months, Linda said calmly. Money that came from the marital household account. Money that, I might add, was primarily funded by my brother's salary. She slid a bank statement across the table. I'm also talking about the numerous times you've pressured Emily to extract information about my client's finances. That could be considered financial coercion. That's ridiculous, Patricia sputtered. Is it? Linda asked. She pulled out her phone, tapped a few times, and slid it across the table. It was a text message from Patricia to Emily. The date was December 28th. Find out exactly how much he has. We need to know before we file, Emily gasped. Mom, you said we were just protecting my interests. You were protecting nothing, Linda said, her voice cold. You were conspiring to commit what could legally be considered extortion. She looked at Brandon. Your client's mother-in-law threatened my client with destruction of his marriage unless he paid her $200,000. That conversation took place on December 25th, in the presence of others. We have witnesses prepared to testify. The room went dead silent. Brandon looked like he wanted to die. Patricia's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Emily was staring at her mother with a look of dawning horror. You, Mom, you said it was just about family investment, about securing our future. It was, Patricia said desperately. David is hoarding money that could help all of us. He's being selfish. Selfish, Linda repeated, almost thoughtfully. She opened her briefcase again and pulled out a thick folder. Let's talk about selfish, Mrs. Monroe. Let's talk about the condo development deal you wanted $200,000 for. She slid papers across the table. This development, the one that doesn't exist, the one that's actually a multi-level marketing scheme disguised as a real estate investment, the one you've already lost $47,000 of your own money in. Patricia's face went from white to gray. How did you? I'm very good at my job, Linda said simply. You were going to take $200,000 from my brother, funnel it into a scam, lose it all, and then come back for more. That was your plan. You've already recruited 3 other investors from your social circle. They've filed complaints with the state attorney general's office. Emily looked like she might be sick. Mom, is this true? Patricia couldn't answer. She was staring at the papers like they were a death sentence. Linda wasn't done. Over the next 2 hours, she systematically dismantled every assumption, every demand, every argument Patricia and Brandon had prepared. She revealed that Emily, under Patricia's influence, had already started moving money out of joint accounts into separate ones. She'd been preparing to hide assets. Linda had tracked every transfer, every withdrawal. She presented evidence of Patricia coaching Emily on what to say, how to present herself as the financially abused spouse. Your mother, Linda said to Emily, her voice softer now, has been systematically manipulating you to destroy your marriage so she could access money that was never hers. My brother loved you. He still loves you. But he will not be extorted. He will not be stolen from. And he will not allow you or your mother to rewrite history. The breakthrough came when Linda deposed Patricia separately, with a court reporter present. Under oath, Patricia's story fell apart. She admitted to the ultimatum. She admitted to telling Emily that David was hiding millions. She admitted to the failed investment scheme. She even admitted, in a moment of desperate honesty, that she'd never liked David and had always thought Emily married down. I was trying to help my daughter, Patricia said weakly. You were trying to rob my client, Linda corrected. And you used your daughter as a weapon to do it. The affair partner angle didn't exist in this story, but Linda found something almost as damaging. Patricia had been telling people in Emily's social circle that David was financially abusive and controlling. She'd been poisoning Emily's reputation by association, making her seem like a victim of a controlling husband. When Linda presented evidence of this to Emily directly, in a private session I wasn't part of, something broke. Emily called me that night. She was crying. David, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't understand what she was doing. I thought she was protecting me. I thought you were hiding things from me. I was protecting our future, I said quietly. I never wanted money to be what our marriage was about. I wanted us to be about us. I was so stupid, she sobbed. I let her in my head. I let her convince me that you weren't enough. But you've always been enough. You've always been more than enough. 3 weeks later, Patricia's lawyer called Linda's office. He was begging to settle. Patricia wanted to drop everything and walk away. She'd agree to whatever terms we wanted. Linda's response was ice cold. No, walking away is a privilege your client hasn't earned. We're going to trial. We're going to put every lie, every manipulation, every attempt at extortion on the public record. And when we're done, Patricia Monroe will be known in this community for exactly what she is. I stopped her. Linda, I said, it's enough. Emily knows the truth now. That's what matters. Linda looked at me, and I saw something soften in her eyes. You always were too kind, little brother. We settled. The terms were brutal for Patricia, merciful for Emily. Emily and I agreed to attend marriage counseling. Patricia was required to repay the $23,000 she'd borrowed, with interest. She was barred from any involvement in our financial decisions, ever. She was required to issue a written apology to me, which would be kept on file, and most importantly, she was cut off. No more money. No more loans. No more access. Emily signed a post-nuptial agreement that protected my inheritance and any future assets I acquired. It was a hard conversation, but a necessary one. I don't want your money, David, she said. I want you. I want us. I want the life we had before my mother poisoned it. 6 months have passed. Emily and I are still in counseling, but we're better, stronger. We talk about money now, about boundaries, about trust. She's cut her contact with Patricia to brief supervised interactions. Patricia, meanwhile, has become something of a pariah in her social circle. The investment scheme collapsed, and her reputation collapsed with it. But here's the real ending. The unexpected part. Linda and I reconciled. She apologized for how she'd treated me after grandfather's funeral. I apologized for not reaching out sooner. We started having Sunday dinners together, just like I used to have with grandfather. We're rebuilding something that was broken. Last week, Linda and I drove out to grandfather's old house, the one I inherited but never sold. It needs work. The paint is peeling. The porch steps are rotting. We stood on the overgrown lawn, looking at it, and Linda said, "We should fix it up. Together. Make it a family home again." I smiled. I'd like that. Patricia Monroe told me that if I didn't give her $200,000, she'd destroy my marriage. She thought I was weak. She thought I was alone. She thought I was powerless. She was wrong on all counts. Her greed, her arrogance, her absolute certainty that she could manipulate and control me, that's what forced me to make the call that brought my sister back into my life. Patricia tried to leave me with nothing. But as I stand here today, with my wife recommitted to our marriage, my sister back in my life, and a future we're building together on honesty instead of manipulation, I realize I have everything that truly matters. Actions have consequences. Patricia learned that the hard way. I learned that family, real family, is worth fighting for. And Emily learned that love isn't measured in dollar signs. It's measured in loyalty, in trust, and in the courage to stand together against those who would tear you apart. The house we're going to fix up? It's not just a property. It's a symbol. A fresh start. A place where real family can gather, where love is valued over money, and where no one will ever again mistake quietness for weakness.